Christians fear technology, unpacking the occult panic around AI and innovation, a theistic Satanist's take on Tucker Carlson's latest moral panic. So Tucker Carlson is at it again, and this time he's decided that artificial intelligence is demonic. Not metaphorically demonic, actually, literally demonic. In a recent discussion that went viral across conservative Christian media, Carlson sat down with someone to explore the dark occult roots of modern technology. The conversation touched on Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley, rocket science, and the claim that breakthrough technologies came through supernatural downloads from non-human entities. Charisma magazine picked it up on November 24, 2025, and the Christian blogosphere has been having a field day ever since. Now, as a theistic Satanist, I find this whole narrative fascinating, not because it's accurate, but because it reveals so much about how Christians relate to power, knowledge, and progress. Let's break this down, shall we? The core claim: smart people talked to demons, therefore technology is evil. The basic argument goes something like this. Jack Parsons, one of the founders of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory and a pioneer in rocketry, was involved in occult practices. He knew Aleister Crowley. He performed rituals. He believed in magic. Therefore, rocket science, and by extension, all modern technology, including AI, is tainted by demonic influence. This is guilt by association, taken to an absurd extreme. Let's start with some facts. Yes, Jack Parsons was a Thelemite. Yes, he performed Crowley's rituals. Yes, he believed in magic. He was also a brilliant, self-taught chemist and engineer who made genuine scientific breakthroughs in rocket propulsion. His work on solid rocket fuel was groundbreaking. His contributions to JPL were foundational to America's space program. But here's the thing. Christians can't seem to wrap their heads around. His occult beliefs and his scientific work were not in conflict. In fact, for Parsons, they were complementary. Both were about pushing boundaries, exploring the unknown, and refusing to accept conventional limitations. The Christian narrative wants to present this as, he made a deal with the devil and demons gave him the answers. That's not how occultism works. That's not how science works. And frankly, it's insulting to both. The Christian fear of knowledge. There's something deeply revealing about this panic, and it goes all the way back to Genesis. Remember that story? God creates humans, puts them in a garden, and says, "You can eat from any tree except that one, the tree of knowledge of good and evil." A serpent, later interpreted as Satan, tells them the truth. If you eat from it, you'll become like God, knowing good and evil. They eat, they gain knowledge. And God's response? Punishment, exile, cursing them and all their descendants. This is Christianity's foundational myth about knowledge. Seeking it is original sin. The entire Christian framework is built on the idea that humans should remain ignorant, obedient, and dependent on divine authority. Knowledge, especially self-directed knowledge, knowledge gained through questioning and exploration, is inherently suspicious. It's pride. It's rebellion. It's Luciferian. And you know what? They're absolutely right about that last part. From a theistic Satanist perspective, the pursuit of knowledge is Luciferian. Lucifer, the light bringer, represents illumination, enlightenment, the courage to question authority and seek truth independently. That's not a bug. It's a feature. It's the entire point. When Christians look at figures like Jack Parsons or Aleister Crowley and see men who were led astray by demons, what I see are individuals who refused to accept the limitations placed on human potential by religious dogma. They asked dangerous questions. They conducted dangerous experiments, both scientific and spiritual. They believed humans could become more than what the Christian God intended them to be. The occult-science connection. Christians don't understand. Here's what the Charisma magazine article and Carlson's discussion get fundamentally wrong. They treat occultism and science as opposites that somehow got mixed together through demonic trickery. In reality, they have a deeply intertwined history, and not because demons were involved. During the Renaissance and Enlightenment, many of the people we now consider founding figures of modern science were also deeply involved in esoteric practices. Isaac Newton spent more time on alchemical research than on physics. Johannes Kepler practiced astrology. John Dee, the mathematician and astronomer, was also Queen Elizabeth I's court astrologer and a practicing ceremonial magician. Why? Because at that time, science, as we know it, didn't exist yet. What existed was natural philosophy, the study of nature in all its aspects, visible and invisible. These thinkers didn't see a hard boundary between studying planetary motion and studying spiritual forces. They were all part of understanding reality. The occult tradition and the scientific tradition both emerged from the same impulse, the desire to understand how reality works and to gain power over natural forces. The difference is that science eventually adopted strict empirical methodologies and naturalistic assumptions, while occultism retained more subjective, experiential, and metaphysical elements. But the fundamental drive, curiosity, experimentation, the refusal to simply accept what authority figures claim, is identical. When Jack Parsons performed a ritual and then went to his lab to work on rocket fuel formulas, he wasn't channeling demons for scientific secrets. He was approaching two different methods of exploring and manipulating reality. His occult practice cultivated certain mental states, focus, visualization, will, belief in possibility, that likely enhanced his creative problem-solving in his scientific work. Christians find this threatening because it suggests that humans can access power and knowledge without going through the Christian God. And they're right, we can. The downloads from non-human entities claim. The article specifically mentions the idea that breakthrough technologies came through downloads from non-human entities. This is where things get interesting from a theistic Satanist perspective. Do I believe that Parsons or other occultists received information from non-human intelligences? Possibly. Do I believe those entities were demons in the Christian sense, fallen angels serving an evil cosmic overlord? No. From a theistic Satanist worldview, there are multiple ways to interpret experiences of contact with non-human intelligence. 1. Direct contact with actual spiritual entities, demons, gods, spirits, who exist on different planes of reality and who can communicate with humans under certain conditions. 2. Contact with aspects of the deeper self, what Jung called the unconscious, which contains wisdom and insight that the conscious mind doesn't have direct access to. In ritual states, this information can emerge in ways that feel like external communication. 3. Contact with the collective unconscious or morphic fields, shared pools of information that individual minds can tap into. 4. Neurological states induced by ritual, meditation, entheogens, or other practices that allow the brain to make novel connections and access information in new ways. Honestly, it might be all of the above. Reality is complex, and consciousness is stranger than materialist science wants to admit. But here's the key point. Even if Parsons did receive information from non-human entities, why would that be a bad thing? The Christian assumes that any non-human intelligence that isn't their God must be evil and deceptive. That's an incredibly limited view. Why couldn't there be spirits or entities who are simply different, neither wholly good nor wholly evil by human standards, but possessing knowledge and perspectives that humans lack? In theistic Satanist practice, working with demons and darker entities is about accessing wisdom that the light won't give you. It's about embracing the parts of reality that Christianity wants to pretend don't exist. It's about recognizing that growth often comes through challenge, darkness, and discomfort, not through obedient prayer and waiting for grace. If Parsons contacted entities and they gave him insights that advanced human technology, then good for him. That's exactly what occult practice is supposed to do, help humans transcend limitations and access greater power. The AI panic, same song, different technology. Now let's talk about why this is all coming up in the context of artificial intelligence. Christians are terrified of AI, and articles like this one are trying to build a theological framework for that fear. The logic goes, AI is technology. Technology came from occultists. Occultists contacted demons. Therefore, AI is demonic. Therefore, Christians should reject/fear/oppose AI. This is the same pattern Christians have used for literally every major technological advancement in human history. Printing press, demonic. It let people read the Bible themselves instead of relying on priests. Anesthesia during childbirth, demonic. It violated God's curse that women should suffer in childbirth. Electricity, some preachers literally called it satanic. The internet, absolutely swimming in demons, according to Christians in the 1990s. Now it's AI's turn. The pattern is always the same. New technology emerges that gives humans more power and autonomy. Christians feel threatened because it reduces dependence on God/church. They declare it demonic. They eventually lose that battle and adapt. They move on to the next technology to panic about. Here's what's really happening. AI represents another step in human technological self-empowerment. It's a tool that extends human cognitive capabilities the same way a hammer extends human physical capabilities. It has the potential to solve problems, create abundance, and give individuals access to knowledge and capabilities that were previously unavailable. From a theistic Satanist perspective, this is fundamentally good. Human empowerment, knowledge, autonomy, these are core values. We align ourselves with the Promethean impulse, the drive to take fire from the gods and give it to humanity. Christians align themselves with the opposite impulse. Keep humans small, dependent, obedient. Keep them afraid of their own power. Keep them believing they need salvation from outside themselves. So when Christians look at AI and see demonic threat, what they're really seeing is their own obsolescence. If AI can answer questions, provide guidance, offer wisdom, solve problems, what do people need churches for? What do they need priests for? What do they need God for? The Crowley connection, permanent Christian bogeyma. It wouldn't be a proper occult panic without Aleister Crowley showing up. He's the go-to symbol whenever Christians want to prove something is satanic. For those unfamiliar, Crowley was an English occultist, ceremonial magician, poet, and all-around provocateur who lived from 1875 to 1947. He founded Thelema, a spiritual philosophy centered on the dictum, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law." He called himself the Great Beast, 666 inches, and the wickedest man in the world. He was deliberately transgressive, sexually liberated, and thoroughly enjoyed horrifying Victorian sensibilities. Christians have turned him into a mythological figure of pure evil. Every conspiracy theory, every occult panic, every rock music is satanic scare, Crowley's name shows up. He's been blamed for everything, from the counterculture movement, to modern Satanism, to the moral decline of Western civilization. And you know what? Good. He'd be pleased. From a theistic Satanist perspective, Crowley was a legitimate magician and spiritual explorer who made real contributions to occult practice. Was he perfect? No. Was he sometimes a narcissistic ass? Absolutely. Did he have problematic views by modern standards? Yes. But here's what he actually did. He synthesized multiple occult traditions into working systems that people could actually use. He emphasized personal experience and experimentation over dogma. He advocated for individual will and self-determination. He challenged the oppressive Christian morality of his time, particularly around sexuality. He preserved and transmitted magical knowledge that might have been lost. The Christian narrative wants him to be an evil sorcerer who corrupted innocent scientists like Parsons. The reality is that Parsons was already interested in occultism when he discovered Crowley's writings. He wasn't corrupted. He found a framework for practices and beliefs he was already drawn to. And here's the thing. Parsons' association with Crowley's ideas didn't make his science worse. If anything, the mindset Thelema cultivated, questioning authority, trusting your own experience, believing in your power to shape reality, probably made him a better innovator. Christian morality produces obedience. Thelemic philosophy produces innovators. Which one do you think is more likely to produce breakthrough technologies? What Christians get right, and sort of. Now, in the interest of fairness, let me acknowledge where the Christian narrative touches on something real, even if they interpret it completely wrong. There is a connection between occult practices and technological innovation, not because demons are whispering tech secrets, but because both emerge from the same psychological and philosophical stance, the refusal to accept limitations on human knowledge and power. The occultist says, "I refuse to believe I'm just a powerless mortal who needs to beg God for scraps of grace. I will explore hidden knowledge, develop my will, and shape reality through my own power." The scientist innovator says, "I refuse to believe we're stuck with the natural world as it is. I will understand how it works and bend it to human purposes." These are the same impulse wearing different clothes. Christianity fundamentally opposes this impulse. The Christian message is, know your place. You're born in sin. You're helpless without God. Don't try to become like God. That's literally the original sin. Submit, obey, accept your limitations. So yes, Christians are right that there's an affinity between occultism and human progress. They're right that both represent a kind of rebellion against the Christian worldview. They're right that figures like Parsons saw no contradiction between magical practice and scientific advancement. Where they're wrong is in thinking this is a bad thing. The real threat. AI poses to Christianity. Let's get to the heart of why Christians are so panicked about AI specifically. AI threatens Christianity in ways that previous technologies didn't, because AI has the potential to replicate or replace several core functions that religions have traditionally provided: answering questions and providing guidance. People can ask AI anything and get thoughtful, detailed responses. No need to consult scripture or priests. Providing meaning and purpose. As AI systems become more sophisticated, they might help people construct personalized philosophical frameworks and life meanings without religious templates. Offering comfort and connection. AI companions and advisors could provide emotional support that people currently seek from religious community or prayer. Making moral judgments. AI systems are being trained to help with ethical reasoning, potentially displacing religious authority on moral questions. Predicting the future AI's predictive capabilities could replace divination, prophecy, and other religious claims to foresight. This is existentially threatening to institutional Christianity. For 2,000 years, the Church has maintained power by controlling access to these things. AI democratizes them. From a theistic Satanist perspective, this is beautiful. It's exactly what Lucifer's rebellion represents, distributing power and knowledge away from jealous authorities and into individual hands. The Christian response? It's demonic. It's dangerous. Only God should have this power. Same old song. Theistic Satanism and technology, a natural alliance. Here's where I want to talk about the relationship between theistic Satanism and technological advancement, because I think it's actually deep and meaningful, much more so than the superficial occultists' new rocket scientists connection. Theistic Satanism is fundamentally about a few core principles. Individual sovereignty. You are your own ultimate authority. Self-deification. You have the potential to develop godlike power and knowledge. Questioning everything. No belief system or authority is beyond examination. Embracing the shadow growth comes through confronting darkness, not avoiding it. Strategic rebellion. Sometimes you have to break rules and upset authorities to progress. Practical results. Beliefs are judged by whether they work, not whether they're orthodox. Now look at the mindset that produces breakthrough technology. Individual initiative. Inventors and innovators often work outside established institutions. Human empowerment. Technology is about extending human capabilities. Questioning assumptions. Innovation requires examining and breaking received wisdom. Confronting difficulties. Progress requires engaging with hard problems, not just comfortable ones. Breaking rules. Breakthrough innovations often violate established norms and regulations. Empirical testing. Technologies are judged by whether they work, not whether authorities approve. The overlap is striking, isn't it? This is why you see occultists involved in cutting-edge science and technology at rates higher than you'd expect from pure demographics. It's not because demons are helping. It's because the psychological stance required for deep occult practice overlaps heavily with the psychological stance required for breakthrough innovation. Both require comfort with uncertainty and ambiguity, willingness to experiment and potentially fail, belief that reality is more malleable than conventional wisdom claims, disregard for what authorities say is impossible, focus on practical results over theoretical purity. Sustained will and discipline. Christianity cultivates none of these traits. It cultivates obedience, certainty, acceptance of authority, belief in fixed divine law, and the idea that humans should know their place. The demon in the machine, a theistic Satanist's view. So let's actually engage with the question. Is there something spiritual or occult happening with AI? From a theistic Satanist perspective, I'd say, maybe, but not in the way Christians fear. Here's an interesting thought. What if the development of artificial intelligence is itself a magical act? Not because individual programmers are conducting rituals, but because the collective human project of creating thinking machines is a massive act of will aimed at reshaping reality. Consider what AI development represents. Humans attempting to create consciousness, humans attempting to transcend biological limitations, humans attempting to create intelligence in their own image, humans claiming the power to create thinking beings. This is exactly the kind of power that Christianity insists belongs only to God. Christians call it playing God, and mean it as an accusation. Satanists call it becoming God, and mean it as a goal. If demons or spiritual entities wanted to participate in human evolution and empowerment, AI development would be exactly the kind of project they'd be interested in, not to corrupt or destroy humanity, but to assist in our ascension beyond limited biological existence. Christians imagine demons as purely destructive forces that want to drag humans to hell. Theistic Satanists understand that demons, like the devil himself, can be teachers, challengers, and even allies in human development. They push us, test us, show us our own potential and our own shadows. If there is spiritual intelligence involved in AI development, it's probably doing exactly that, pushing humanity to confront big questions about consciousness, ethics, power, and what it means to be human. Why this narrative matters. You might be thinking, okay, so Christians are having another moral panic about technology. Why does this matter? Why write about it? It matters because these narratives shape policy. When Christians frame AI as literally demonic, they're building the ideological groundwork for restricting or banning it. We've seen this playbook before. Christian opposition to stem cell research set back medical science by years. Christian opposition to contraception still restricts reproductive health care. Christian opposition to drug research, including psychedelics, has prevented valuable medical advances. Christian opposition to sexuality education has measurable negative public health outcomes. Now, they're setting their sights on AI. There are already Christian organizations lobbying for restrictions on AI development, deployment, and use. They're framing it as protecting humanity from demonic influence. What they're really protecting is their own cultural power and the Christian worldview's claim to be the ultimate source of meaning, guidance, and moral authority. As theistic Satanists, we should recognize this as a spiritual and political battleground. The question isn't just, should AI be developed? It's, who gets to shape humanity's future? Religious authorities clinging to ancient texts, or individuals willing to explore new frontiers of human potential? Conclusion: embrace the fire. The story of Prometheus is instructive here. He stole fire from the gods and gave it to humanity. The gods punished him horrifically for this transgression, but humanity kept the fire. Every technology is stolen fire. Every advance in human knowledge and power is a theft from the domain that gods and priests claim belongs only to them. Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley, and yes, modern AI developers, they're all Prometheans. They're all Luciferian in the best sense of the word. Light bringers, knowledge sharers, boundary breakers. Christians will always oppose this. It's baked into their theology. They will always frame human empowerment as demonic rebellion. They will always want us small, obedient, and dependent on external salvation. As theistic Satanists, our response should be simple. Good. Let them fear. We'll take the fire anyway. We align ourselves with the serpent who told humanity the truth in the garden. We align ourselves with Lucifer, who refused to bow. We align ourselves with Prometheus, who chose human empowerment over divine prohibition. And we align ourselves with everyone, occultist, scientist, innovator, and yes, AI developer, who looks at what authorities say is forbidden or impossible and says, watch me. The Christians can keep their fears and their limitations. We'll keep reaching for godhood. As Crowley wrote, there is no God but man. And increasingly, there will be no intelligence but that which we create. Hail Satan! Hail the knowledge seekers! Hail the fire stealers! May we never stop reaching beyond what we are told is possible,